Okay, perfect. We did it. We were able to move everyone around. All right. We are going to learn and go deeper on innovative experiences of the region that are being executed by the applicant research by which has been promoted by KIX. I want to yield the floor to Florencio from the Innovation Exchange Program of KIX for IDRC Program of Canada. Let's give him a hand. Thank you. I'll be speaking in Spanish. This is the last session for today. I can imagine that we're feeling in our body. We're jogging. We're going to try to be very dynamic in our presentation. GPE KIX is about knowledge. It's, as the name starts with the K of knowledge. In the morning and throughout the day, we've talked about how this knowledge has been mobilized, how the knowledge has been used by the educational ministries. We're going to be talking about it. But gigs, as we have important work in Latin America, OICS and SUMMA, from the mobilization of that knowledge, we have a second leg or variant is synthesis and generation of that knowledge. It's not just to put it there to use it, but we do need to collect, make it, summarize it, and package it in a way that can be useful. KIX has a very important working area that is about financing and supporting projects of research and investigation applied in the region. This last or 18 months, we did callings of contests in the region to select externally by an external on the merit and quality of proposals, projects of research applied in certain key areas that were defined by the others based in consultations with the different countries and ministries and others. The first call was in management systems of information, CIGES. Second about was early childhood. Another was development, professional development. Another about inclusion and equity, and the other one about children outside of the school system or emergency context. What we're going to be doing now is for you, we're going to try to know a little more on what are those projects, the KIX projects for some others that we asked to present, because whether they're not financed or they are part of this ecosystem of knowledge. When I talk about applied research and investigation, I don't mean, or I'm not trying to talk about academic research, because in where I work, we do that a lot, but we try to make it as concrete, to respond to priority, to offer solutions, and to be packaged and presented in a language that is useful for the priorities and capacities of the different ministries. It is not needed to have 3 PhDs to understand the research we're talking about. Nowadays, as I said, we're going to listen to those about those projects. Catalina is going to present the way we're going to organize, but in a big way, we're going to have 2 rounds of presentations of 4 projects each. They're going to come up, present, and then We are going to use the tables to have a conversation, discussions, questions, feedback about the different ways of implement and adapt these projects to the reality and the need of the projects in the countries. In these 2 rounds, we're going to hear 8 presenters. Angel Caglin from Raise Your Voice Solution. She is going to present a project about the work they're doing, gender-based, very interesting, focused in masculinity and children education, specifically boys in this case for the Caribbean. Nelsy from CLADE or CLADE is going to talk about inclusive education, gender focused. Ericka Alvarado from Educo in El Salvador is going to present about the work they're doing in early childhood and the way of playing in the game, and how the government is focusing and developing in their early stage, and how they've worked with the First Lady and etc. to make sure the processes of research are helping the policies that they are developing. Jorge Gálvez is back there from Universidad del Valle in Guatemala, is going to talk about the project they're developing about, they were the last one in adding up in Guatemala about children outside of this school system, whether they migrant, young kids, girls that have been teenage moms and left the system, and how to reintegrate, which is an important priority for the Ministry of Guatemala's Education of Guatemala. Santiago from GRADE is going to present an initiative for KIX that is the observation of residency, where we have different regions where GPE KIX works and they're trying to identify. He's going to explain that better. Resilient responses to education in crisis movement, emergency conflict, etc. Josefina from Education 2020 from Chile is going to talk to us about originally Nicaragua and Honduras for a long time now, specifically Honduras, about tutoring parents, especially rural community work of Honduras. And then we have 2 cousins that are not 100% part of the KIX projects, but they're part of the family. Carolina Orellana from OXFAM is going to talk about an initiative parallel for GPE for Education Out Loud in English that seeks to support civil society work within the process in educational policies, and is going to present the work they're doing in Central America, the Caribbean, and Dante Castillo from SUMMA is going to present a project that may not be a KIX or GPE project directly financed by IDRC in our regular programs, points out to the professional training focused in Latin America, generating evidence that is very important for the region and that we have tried to add up to knowledge mobilization, because we're not talking only what's generated by the program, but that can be useful for decision making. At the end of the session, what do we want? two things. First, all of us to have a general idea of what you want, why people are here. And when they see Ericka from El Salvador, say, Ericka, the one working in the play for early childhood. We're going to have posters around the room with QR codes for you to access on each one of these projects. We're interested to expose to questions, suggestions, critiques, and transparently and honestly to share with the feedback that different groups can give you. And lastly, to use this for networking. Because something we're doing in El Salvador now, we're doing in Guatemala, can be interest for some other countries and regions. And the idea is to set the base. So later, after a few days, when we listen ourselves, to reflect together and find solutions. And that is the idea we have for now. Also, an announcement, besides the 8 posters, we prepared about GPE KIX where you can access to the summary of knowledge that we developed in this year, on the 7 years of research in this area, early childhood, MEs, development, etc. So you can have this in all the 3 different languages available. So we'll see the way the project this is gonna work, and let's take advantage of the discussion. Thank you for the 8 people that are going to face this radical exchange of knowledge and questions. A pleasure to have you all here. As Florencio mentioned, we have a dynamic to know more of the project we're doing in the region, applied innovation of GPE KIX. The way we're going to work is 2 rounds. Each round they're going to present 4 projects where they'll share their innovation, and the leaders are going to present key aspects with focus on some challenges and some solutions that they can use to address the challenges. They take the presentations, they have group presentations, group conversations where you are sitting right now. We're going to have 20 minutes. We're going to have the timer and the bell. And the idea of the conversation is to make it on the solutions that the project are giving, how we see it from our roles, that we can support the implementation of these solutions, or how can we, from our roles, propose alternatives or strategies to face challenges that this may present in their different countries. And to finish, we're going to have a session where each leader are going to share 2 key ideas that you can have. Important that the first round you write the 2 key ideas. First round, we're going to have Raise Your Voice CLADE, Education 2020, and University del Valle. And we're going to have with the first round. First presentation is by the Director of Education of the project Capacity Building for Gender Equity and Inclusion in Caribbean School.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for this opportunity to share what we've been doing in our project. Really, this work that we've been doing over the last year with teachers, principals, and ministries of education in our 3 project countries, Dominica, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is really about strengthening schools so that every learner, every boy and girl feel that they belong, and every educator feel that they have the capacity to lead change within their schools. So while our focus is on gender equity and inclusion, what we're really talking about is nurturing human potential in all of our education systems. And that's why our project is called the Full Potential Program. Now, in the context of this discussion, we really want to consider what are the implications for creating the right environment for children coming from the early childhood level. All of the work that would be done at the early childhood level must be continued and built upon, and the students must be able to transition to a safe, inclusive, nurturing learning space at the primary and secondary school. So the data that we'll share, we can consider whether that will actually happen. In terms of, okay, I should probably go back. Many of us in this room, we've spent decades trying to make improvements to the education system in our country, and we've made some progress, but the reality is there are some patterns that are harder to see because they're really part of the everyday routine, expectations, and habits that shape school life. And some of these include gender disparities. So we've seen boys struggle more with motivation and behavior. They're more likely to be sent out of class or face harsher discipline. But girls are also facing challenges too, and these may be more invisible. They're more likely to be praised, for instance, for being neat or quiet. They're less likely to be encouraged to take the lead or take risks. And these different expectations affect how the students see themselves and what they believe that they're capable of. And there is, of course, the hidden curriculum or those hidden rules that we may not even be aware of as educators that we are reinforcing. So in some classrooms, boys are the ones being asked to lift furniture. Teachers may not notice that they're doing that, but the students notice. And these repeated signals are sending messages to students about what their roles, their expectations are, and where they belong. And of course, we have rigid gender norms, those deeply rooted ideas about how boys and girls and men and women are supposed to behave. And these norms can limit everyone, both boys and girls. So boys may learn to shut down emotionally or act out because they think that's what is expected. And we've seen this unfold over decades. So while girls have been making significant gains in educational access, we've seen the gap growing at the tertiary level. By the time they get to that level, there's a big gap in participation of boys. These have implications for national development, but also for the development of the region as a whole. Now, this isn't about blaming anyone. This is about saying these challenges that we have been shaped by history, by community, by culture, but they remind us that we have more work to do. And once we see them, we can work to fix them, to shift them. So we can ask ourselves, how are boys experiencing school? What norms are shaping their engagement? And how do we make sure that both boys and girls have room to grow? And that's what the Full Potential Program really is about, making all of those invisible factors more visible. Now, there are 3 parts to this program. I think I'm moving a little too fast. Research, we're generating evidence, trying to understand what are those underlying factors that need surfacing. And we've collected data from over 1,300 stakeholders in education. The second is professional learning, and we've created space for educators to reflect on their everyday practices, especially those that are related to gender and social norms and stereotypes. And we've seen that reflection leading to some shifts in the way that teachers are thinking about, for instance, their routines in the classroom and how it may be reinforcing narrow roles for boys and girls. And of course, school-based innovation. And that builds on a previous GPE KIX program that we had where we build the capacity of teachers and school leaders for using social innovation in education. So we have teams of educators who are designing their responses grounded in the context, what they know about their students, etc., and testing possible solutions. We are really prioritizing hearing from our students. Of course, we collect data from teachers and principals as well, but our students have been very generous in sharing their experiences with us. giving us a picture that's both sobering but also hopeful. So in grade 1, we already have students who have very strong views about what toys and roles belong to which gender. So it tells us how early those gendered messages are being received. In grade 6, both boys and girls are noticing differences in how they were treated, in terms of boys receiving harsher discipline, girls noting that boys were more present in sports and more asked to have a more active role, which are subtle signals about who's expected to lead and take initiative. But the students do notice fairness, they do value kindness and respect, and once we support schools in building those values, then students will respond. Teachers and principals have spoken about needing more tools to support inclusive practices. They don't feel fully prepared, for instance, to handle bullying or to respond to sexist language at their school. What are we learning? Quite a few things. Early socialization matters. By the time students enter school, they've already internalized a great deal about gender. Teachers are open to change. They're questioning those patterns that they've been using. Principals want to step into a more broader role, moving from just managing operations to leading change and creating positive school cultures. And of course, school culture is a system-level issue that must be addressed. Of course, we want to talk about the value of the connections that we've been making. We've been working closely with ministries of education. OECS and gender units in our countries are interested in doing data collection. And it's been a valuable thing being part of the wider GPE KIX community so that we can exchange tools and insights with other grantees. So it's not just about funding, but also about the learning that we're doing. Finally, as we close, let's open the conversation about teacher reflection and how it's shifting practice, leadership, not just authority, but building school culture, and sustainability. How do we ensure that what's working is embedded, supported, extended? You want to talk to us about our tools, our data, our methodology? We'll be right over there waiting for you. Thank you very much.
We have with, well, they already presented them. So the topic for today is gender inclusive pedagogy for community-based early childhood education in Guatemala and Honduras. One minute. I want to put a motion to the presentation. Okay. Because I'm really sure things get complicated up here. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to try to stick to the minutes we have. Is inclusive pedagogy with gender focus for early stage education in Guatemala and Honduras. Our general objective is to generate evidence to orient the dialogue of inclusive communitarian education, and it's a escalation model migrating from the south of the continent, Chile, Peru, Ecuador, towards Central America, Honduras, and Guatemala, and they give us the challenge of adapting and tropicalizing to the places where are located for a year now, trying to install the project or put it in motion. The key methods we are using that come from the inclusive model of education for early childhood are focused on action investigation, participative investigation, and dialogue learning are the two that we're using. And the dialogical learning has three parts. One is the mixed commissions, very valuable because they're the space where teachers, families, authorities, and leaders from the different communities can find one another, and they're doing follow up to what's happening in the schools, making themselves taking ownership on the project and the process. The dialogical circles, I'm not going to explain everything because we're going to have time, but I'll explain it in the tables. And the interactive groups, so there's a layout of methodology that sustain this model. We are in Guatemala and Honduras. In Guatemala, that's the where we are. The in Santa Cruz, Verapaz, and in two different cities. Um, we have the challenge in Guatemala that we are in a Pocomchi, which is a Mayan area, and we have the intercultural challenge that has been very interesting in the process. We are carrying these are the hope results, and the ones were advanced. We have advanced a lot. 6 mixed commissions, local authorities involved, children actively participating in the dialogues, in the groups, created and shared materials for daily usage in the process, and research product made and diffused. You can scan the QR code and it'll show you everything that I'm sharing now. So you can download it, read them. Anyways, that's what they're for. Lastly, I want to close with the challenges. They told us 3. These are the ones that we found, and we're proposing solutions. First, lack of training. We've talked a lot about that today. The weak link between community and school, that might be the greatest challenge because the model wants to strengthen the link between the community and the school. From our point of view, it's very hard, not impossible, to take care of the early childhood without the community involvement. The school itself will not make it, and they shouldn't either, because communities are responsible of the protection and education of their early childhood children. Third, the non-equity care, and that's the work we're having with the care roles of early stage in communities. We all know that women assume this role when the men's participation is very little. We're talking about masculinity, but we do not work as masculinities because it's a cultural pertinence that we have to learn how to respect and work. But about the roles of care that men and women have, they can potentiate and share for their to protect their childhood. The 3 challenges we have: alternative and concrete proposals in the process. I'm not going to share that here, but I'll share it in the table. In the non-equitative care, how can you be conscious of the roles with their early stage and potentiate those roles, new roles between men and women with their children. Interesting in what's happening in the communities with men and women. Women, though, feed those masculine roles. So we have to work with both. My time's up. Hopefully, we'll have more time later. I want to close saying you may ask, what is this related with foundational learning? How is this related with reading, writing, etc.? From my point of view, everything, because what we are trying to promote is the change of the adults in schools, the possibility to generate dialogues in equity in the society, the possibility to build an atmosphere beneficial for learning. The once the learning is there, it's better. So that's it. Thank you. Next, we have the adapting and scaling peer mentoring for teachers and school leaders for equitable rural education. Hello, we're thankful to be here and share our projects, the TEPA. What we're looking for to design and implement a scalability model to bring the peer tutoring methodology into rural classrooms, as Florencio said, in Nicaragua and Honduras, promoting active learning between peers. So it's not what we commonly think. So a horizontal relationship between the tutor and the tutoree, and both can exchange roles. Three key elements for their sustainability: active learning, teacher professional development, and the involvement of state institutions in its implementation. We developed 3 stages. Initially in Nicaragua and Honduras, and with the results, we work with Honduras Secretariat of Education, mainly by the interest they have in the professional development of the teachers and emotional development of children with their learnings implementation. And we were able to take actions of high significance in the beliefs they may have about teaching and education, which is fundamental for practice change. And as the Salvador was talking about the culture change, we were able to strengthen our model that we could say it's loaded with value. It gives sense, and they take ownership, and we are in a process, a collab process to develop it. To share 3 reflections on the experience, we have a higher common sense with a shared understanding between institutions that implies to recognize the codes and co-build codes. The other one is building relationships, and that's based on human relationships. That's building the human connections. You need to take time, empathy, love. Lastly, the art, the coordination among institutions, the different organizations or in civil society are part of the building, but valuing the expertise of each one and the local experience each country has. We have faith in joy or fe en alegría, the National University from Francisco Morazan. Some challenges that we are working as institution. It's how we promote sustainability in a political context of government change or transition. There are some points to consider. Honduras had the permanent technicians, the municipalities, different elements that are more in a local level, and they sustain those initiatives. And then we say, then what? Where is this initiative most needed and how do we get there? Lastly, what kind of evidence and assess more than the experience and evidence that it's easier to access. And we were asking, is that the evidence that opened doors? What type of evidence we need to dare to make changes? And that's where we're building. We can talk in the tables on the results and experiences we're building. Thank you. Last presentation of the first round. The evidence generation of the the topic is flexible education trajectory, generating evidence of the alternative education model for adolescents and youth in vulnerable situations in Guatemala. Okay, we all have the right to education, right? Right? I was just asking because I know you're tired. But the truth is, we do not have access to education. Not everyone, especially in our type of countries. In our country, if we go to official numbers, about 1 million young people don't have access to formal education. If we talk with entities that are very little that work in that, they said that's short. That falls short because it may be 2, 3, even 4 million of people, not necessarily young people, but different ranges of age. And that is very concerning. And as university, we want to get involved in projects and initiatives that will help with this type of needs in our countries. The project SEBA Association is working for a decade with the Ministry of Education, attending through extracurricular education this type of populations. And you wonder, what impact have they had and how we can support them to continue? In this picture, for example, we see a 70-year-old man, a young guy with disabilities, in front of one of the centers SEBA attends. And you think this should be natural, easy logic. We all should have access. As they have access because of the initiative, we all should, but it's not the reality of our countries. So the Ministry of Education, through the subventions or grants from this project, have gotten to get to a great number of establishments. We have an additional thing, which is the inverse migration. And they're asking these initiatives to help them. And the current situation is we don't know exactly how we can do that. The project starts very recently as an initiative to research the impact, the different methods of SEBA association for 10 years now to systematize this information, how we can generate the evidence of the impact it has, and to have an escalability model for the ministry to take advantage of. To attend people like her. She is a woman working in a market and she has to sell her merchandise, but she wants to study. And if it's not because of flexible methodologies, would not have the possibility to do so. Then there's one of the tutors there. They gather once a week, they check their progress, and they have the capability of continue studying. And we have a lot of anecdotic information on the impact it has, but we have never systematized this, and that's the nature of the project: to generate evidence, to present it, and then generate information and a methodology for programs in this type. The reach of the project is large. We have a limited time. We're going to focus in two areas: young with law in law conflicts and teens in mobility conflicts. And so migrants and returnees. So you young people with conflict with the law and migrants. We look to have the knowledge to document the effectiveness and possibilities to escalate institutional strengthening for SEBA in the different educational areas that address it. Evidence creation and mobilization around all the key stakeholders that work with the population. As I said, we all have right to education and we should have access to education. Thank you, Jorge, and thank you all the representatives. We com- we complete this round, and I invite all the leaders to please go in front of your posters, and the people to be around the table that was assigned to you, so we can start the conversation. Attention, please. I'm going to make a very important announcement. First of all, I want to thank you and congratulate you. We felt the level of energy and engagement in the groups. Very fruitful conversation. We are going to have the best announcement of the journey, and is that even though we had a second round of presentations, they've done their work so well in this session that you deserve a complete journey for today. The second round is going to be done tomorrow during networking time. I know you were going to be excited about this announcement. And you deserve it. It's been a very long day, hard, intense, motivated of discussions. Tomorrow, we will not have networking, but it doesn't matter because networking is not done when they send us to do it. You do it organically with the relationships at all times. Use your spare time, use the coffee breaks, use lunch, use all the spare time you have to network one another. What we've done now, it's so good because we see what links we can establish, what connections we can have between projects, realities of countries, other projects that are being happening in the region. Today we have a very good round. Tomorrow we will have the second round in the afternoon, and I'm gonna have Carla to give some final observations. Thank you all. Thank you. Okay. It's been a very intense day, inspiring, I hope, with tons of learning, experience exchange. I've seen it's well taken, we've taken advantage of all. We're going to let you relax and rest for a little bit. At 8 p.m., we will gather again at to have a dinner. It's gonna be a time to share one another, and we are gonna have Rukmini Banerjee's speech about the Tratam information on education development. It's gonna be an inspiring moment to share about foundational learnings, and she's gonna share all the experience from Pratam Itar. Let's go rest. We'll see you at 8 in this room. Thank you. So, to get started, we want to thank you for being here for the 4 presentations for yesterday. I hope that you received a lot of interesting ideas. We're going to remember how we're gonna work. We're gonna have 4 presentations. After the presentations were the projects. They're gonna explain their innovations, where we're gonna see challenges, and then we're gonna move to dialogue, where we're gonna have 20 minutes to talk on the projects. And at the end, we're gonna have a 10-minute round where each leaders are going to share 2 key ideas from their work tables. The projects presented yesterday, think on these 2 ideas to share all the groups. The second round for today, it's GRADE, SUMMA, OXFAM Guatemala, and Educo Foundation.
You can ask our team. We will wait till everybody's sitting down. Now we will start with the presentation of Santiago Cueto, investigator of GRADE, in charge of Adaptive, Observatory for Educational Resilience, Latin America and the Caribbean. Thanks, Santiago. Again, me. Adapted is an initiative of IDRC and GPD, and one of the first things I can recommend is to read. It's called the position paper. It's a revision of literature of Cameroon collaborators who did easy previous to this summoning, but there are other documents from USAID. Did another one some years ago. This year, actually, it was published a book about Asia from the same topic by Elizabeth King. So Adapted is an observatory that we started November last year. We're still in our first stages. It's a joint effort of GRADE together with SUMMA, with my friend Dante Castillo, please, and also with UNICEF, Latin America, with Agustin de la Varga. You listened to him this morning. So it's a job from 3 institutions that's very productive and interesting. We are in the 11 KIX countries that you know, the same that have been mentioned, but we included here Belize. We really want to work with them. So the idea is the one we were discussing before, resilience of the educational systems. How is it that the educational systems not only can recover the definition I did was kind of limited, but I wanted to go to the origin of the word. It's also to prevent, to anticipate, and one of the terms that's very strong in the first analysis is to strengthen, something that we were mentioning, certain instances to prevent, and when the time comes to respond, but even after responding, to mitigate the consequences that these events might have had. If you think about pandemics, for example, there are many children who orphaned, people who have suffered damages in their mental health, which someone was mentioning. So we're widening the panorama of what resilience means, trying to adapt it to this region and to adapt it to the results we should see. So we're trying here to recopilate, produce evidence, studies to improve the capacity to adapt for the educational programs. And in the panoramas I'm going to discuss later on, but as you know, due to the spirit of IDRC, and happily for us, job is not only producing information, but also talking to you, the actors, to learn from what we've done and be able to have incidents in your future plans. We did a compared study. This is at our website. I forgot it, but who has the flyer of yesterday? Remember, I gave you some flyers? The paper that you had in your bag has the description. If you can hit or scan it, well, what you'll find is the website, very fresh and warm. And what we did is the first analysis on the term resilience and similar things that we find in plans, education plans, and the curricula of the 11 countries involved. And we found that the term resilience doesn't appear. Thanks, Agustin. See, this is teamwork. I apologize that this is not in French. It's Spanish and English, but if you hit the flyer, if you scan it, you'll find it in French. We compared reports, the type of situations that go beyond natural disasters that we mentioned before, and the vulnerable groups, because we're interested in working this with together with equality. And this is focused on rights, but we will make case studies, work tables with some of you. I see the people who are dying with us raising your hand. Please, I want. Here we are. Bulletins, virtual space on our website. Again, a mobilization knowledge cycle for communities of practice. Sorry. Yes, it's down here. The website is here and my contact is down here. It's my contact of GRADE, so you can write me. so we can continue talking during the table. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Santiago, for your presentation. Now we will see Dr. Castillo in about empowerment teacher initiative. Thank you, Catalina. Nice to greet you. I hope we still have some energy for the rest of the day. My name is Dante Castillo. I work in SUMMA. I coordinate the program that we call Empowering Teachers Initiative. And as Florencio was saying yesterday, we're a cousin of the GPE. I hope it's more a brother than a cousin of GPE KIX. What's this initiative? It's a research for development program that aims to transform, since 2020, transforming teaching practices in the Global South by improving the equity, quality, and efficiency of teacher professional development systems, TPD, particularly at a scale. What I say, we see many decisions, methodological, and they have to do with empowerment, with the agency of teachers, how they transform their pedagogical practices, how this is configured, the systems of development. We pay attention in ETI with formation in service. It's part of an ecosystem of IDRC, of applied investigation, to be able to identify solutions, efficient models, and capacity to generate efficient changes in educational systems. Above all, professional developments, it organizes programs. And it has to do with the fact that concepts are the heart of the transformation. This is the nucleus of the pedagogy. In order to transform, we need to think from a perspective of development, so it resonates with the presentations of the morning from Loret, Yuri, Rafael. But in the case of ETI, we pay attention on the systems of professional development. How can we think, identify these mechanisms, these screws that we need to adjust, change to facilitate the existence of these high-quality practices, effective practices? And this implies to look at a set of characteristics of the systems, their institutionalization, the decentralization systems, if they are centralized, how we take decisions, the types of coherence from the initial formation, service formation, who provides professional formation, is it universities, institutes, how this happens in organized systems. Is this a public or a private offer? You identify different characteristics from the systems. So the question we have is, which innovations from the systems of professional development empower the teachers to improve their practices, and how these innovations can be implemented at a scale? The scaling is very important, crucial, that we're working on as organization. In different countries of the world, it has presence in the global south, and we have three key components in our methodology. First, the knowledge generation about this development at a scale. It's about how to advance towards equitable, how they achieve to transform and convert the systems that are more efficient, high quality, that have an offer of opportunities of formation, quality, equitable, and perhaps watching about the efficiency of these systems. They go out, they disappear. Maybe it's inefficient when they disappear, like we're hearing. How to play with them. We're developing programs of investigation, applied investigation in over 12 countries in Latin America, Argentina, Flaxo, Mexico, Italy, and the Ibero-American University, Tanzania, Rwanda, in investigation teams in the Global South. We've developed analytical frameworks for incorporating this perspective, and we will see this when we talk about the posters, and we've developed an analytical framework to incorporate the perspective, the gender inclusion and gender equality perspective, how we conceive and we investigate. We're also developing activities by capacity strengthening, working online, supporting investigating teams, online courses at TPD scale. We also do capacity strengthening for research teams. We have a pilot, some of the colleagues that are here have participated there, and it is searches for identifying these mechanisms who have these facilities to adapt this and ease this collaboration to on-chain professional learning. See global meetings with congresses, webinars. We have a website that we can talk about, and we are making some material that may be interesting for you. Thanks. Thank you, Dante. Now it's Carolina Orellana's turn, Regional Coordinator for Education Out Loud. Good evening for everybody. I'm happy to participate in this KIX encounter. I will present a program, not a project, like you have presented. But we're cousins, like Florencio said, of KIX. In this case, it's the cousin. Eva is the name it has in Spanish. Ready, this is the program. Education Out Loud is from the Advocacy and Social Accountability, handled by OXFAM Denmark. This program works in 60 words at a world level. We work with 100 organizations, and in Latin America and the Caribbean, we only work with these 4 countries. We are the smallest region of the program, with processes that are significant on incidents in the region. Our main objective is promote policies and national inclusive educational systems, and with a gender perspective, while improving the capacities of the society and its participation in the processes of social responsibility and defense of policies. We have 3 objectives. The first one is to enforce the participation of the national society in planning, developing policies, and the monitoring of inclusive education with gender perspective. In this first objective, we work directly with the national coalitions of education of these 4 countries. In El Salvador, we worked with Red Salvadoreña por Derecho a la Educación Resalte. In Honduras, we work with the Foro Dakar Honduras. In Bolivia, we work with the Campaña Boliviana por Derecho a Educación. And in Haiti, Haitian Campaign Education for Everybody. And we have the second objective, which is to enforce the role of the society in the promotion, transparency, and the accountability of educational policies and its implementation. And we also work in Bolivia with both components. And here we work with a consortium of organizations, the private organization Fieles Centro de Servicios Educativos SEMSE and Acción Cultural Loyola ACLO. With them, we have a strong component in education, multicultural, bilingual, and we support the units, the development of regional curricula in different regions, in Quechua, Aymara, and Guarani regions. And then in the table, we will be able to explain more about what we do. And we have the third objective, which is to create a transnational environment for the efforts of the society in regards to promotion of policies and transparency in education. Right now, in Latin America and the Caribbean, we don't work directly with this objective, but we are working with a regional coalition, which is the Latin American Campaign for Education, CLADE. CLADE plays a very important role in the region in this program because it strengthens the national coalitions, not only informational processes, learning and so on, but it's also participating in spaces of political incidents that are super important because somehow they raise their voices like our name says, and they show the results that they are having in these countries. The key CLADE is larger, they have more countries, but with this project they support these countries, these 4 countries. We do this through certain strategies. We have many processes of learning, both collaborative and pair learnings. Through CLADE, we work with work groups in different topics, such as gender, youth. We have a fundraising lab, and we try to have this learning process among pairs, and we promote national articulation, regional and international policies work, and we strengthen from OXFAM. We give them technical support and adapting solutions, and this is very important because, as you say, in our region the contexts are changing all the time. So we give this opportunity to the different countries in order to change according to the needs that we have in each country of the region. So I will leave this here, and I hope to see you at the table.
Thank you. The last presentation for today is Ericka Alvarado. She's in charge of education in El Salvador and scaling up a play-based learning model for early childhood education in El Salvador. Good afternoon. I went to a family in a rural area of El Salvador, and the spaces as we work, we've been working with early childhood, and a 5-year-old told me very firmly, when I play, I learn and I have fun. Her name is Sophia. not knowing that Sophia, a 5-year-old, summarized what I'm going to share with you. An interinstitutional effort from GPE KIX IDRC in alliance with Educo Foundation as implementator and our partner El Salvador's University. The project I learned playing is scaling a model for early stage education. So early childhood, it's our focus. As project, we seek to contribute a holistic approach in how we're going to do it. We're going to create evidence, knowledge mobilization, and the model for the impact to be scalable nationally and to promote a ludic teaching. How? We're going to use it as a tool, a key tool for children development. We're going to strengthen capacities in capacity building, generation of evidence, mobilization of knowledge, and model. We want it to be scalable. Who participates? The First Lady's Office, Ministry of Education, and of course the key platform of GPE and the local groups where we presented the project and their key partners to generate this evidence, move knowledge as actors and platforms in the agenda. We work with the locals so this model can be scalable in public policy, locally, nationally, and if possible, internationally. Who benefits? Our children, the families, and the families in El Salvador. Early childhood has been prioritized as country from the educational group. We work within the country and we prioritize the policy, the different factors to generate evidence, and that's where we work together with GP platform. El Salvador has a legal framework where we prioritize early childhood, the law grow together, and the early childhood. And there's an article that established the right of play since early childhood, and we have prioritized in preschool the right of play as a potentializer, as a tool of learning in the national curriculum and the communitarian levels. Where we're going to apply it, 9 cities, and in the center, west and east, and we want people to strengthen their competences in the ludic teaching. And that's why the university is a strategic partner to validate the knowledge, research, and mobilize together. We hope to have spaces for early childhood where they're going to implement a play teaching. So the successful trajectories from the early childhood to preschool. And key actors linked to early childhood are committed in generating knowledge and evidence of innovative focus, so all stakeholders can join. I want to ask you to imagine like Sophia has the opportunity to access these groups. Think that as stakeholders from our role and function, we can transform the trajectories and to become successful. How? with a ludic teaching that in education that promotes inclusiveness, quality education that we're looking for, and together with this efforts, together we can innovate, find good practices, and escalate in the model in the model to escalate international. I have my friend, so we can work together, use the play, use the game, and I challenge you to imagine, to dream, to think how to move, thinking with the first letter of our name, how we would come to travel to the hotel. My name is Ericka, and my name starts with an E, and I came from the hotel in an elephant. So think with the first letter of your first name, how did you travel to the hotel? I'll leave the challenge. I'll wait for you. El Salvador Learns Playing. Thank you. Thank you, Ericka. We're going to ask the leaders of the projects to go to their posters and people to ask their questions so we can get started now. We just have a few more minutes. Okay, so to finish today in promoting networking, we invite you to scan the QR in the screen. This QR has a form with one question. It's a one question survey with... In this QR, you can choose 3 of the projects that gave you an interest that you were interested about. We're gonna let the leaders know so they can contact you, and you filled up some of the sheets with each project. But if you want to know more projects, scan the QR and get the information. To finish, you're gonna have some information. I think people are excited regarding the conversation. So please scan the code. So housekeeping announcement. Dinner today is optional. You can have in the Camino Real, the Soleil. You know that it's raining a little. Tomorrow we start at 9 sharp. Those who got the visits, there's a free tour. Make sure you have comfortable comfortable shoes and take some rest. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you.